Have you ever wondered if a first-person survival horror game would work well as a roguelite with a good helping of absurd humor and a side of prop hunt? Well, that's this game. Golden Light is an early access horror roguelite where you're chilling with the love of your life, when suddenly a giant flesh monstrosity grabs her and you jump in after them to a place called the Gut. It's a terrible place with flesh monsters, strange objects, and low draw distance, but you need to brave this nightmare to get she back. And that brings us to the core gameplay loop and the meat zone. Every randomly generated floor of the Gut has you navigate a bunch of small rooms and corridors with the goal of finding enough keys to unlock the elevator to the next floor. The floors are cluttered with crap. Random furniture, stacks of computer monitors, stacks of Oh no, that's not books. That's actually the basic enemy of this game, a mimic. 1 second, it's an ordinary object sliding across the floor. The next second, it's a giant pile of meat trying to kill you. You're not defenseless though. You can find weapons and fight back. If you're lucky, you might even find a gun. Maybe even a gun with more guns attached to it. Good luck finding enough ammo for it though. Oh yeah, and weapons also break if you breathe on them too hard, so it's best to use them sparingly. There's also traps everywhere. Hands that come out of the ground, eyeball monsters on the ceiling, meat traps that spread a status effect in the area that only goes away when you've completely given up on ever going in that direction ever again. Speaking of status effects, there's a bunch, and they all work like Dark Souls where a meter starts to fill up, and if it fills up, you're in trouble until it ticks all the way back down. You got your standard poison and bleeding, then there's rust, which makes your weapons degrade faster every time you attack something, gold hunger, which eats your money until you run out, then it eats you, love, which makes you not able to attack, and bone shiver, which is a bummer. You better run or you'll freeze to death. There's also regen, which gives you health back. And if you get a regen weapon, there's a button to hit yourself so you can get some health back. All of these status effects also work on enemies. The mimics are only the beginning. As you go deeper into the Gut, more enemies start to appear, like these things, and these things that hang on doors and scream at you, and is that legs? Oh god! Not everything in the Gut is hostile though. There are quite a few friendly NPCs, from buying items to repairing your stuff to a toilet bowl that heals you when you throw money into it. There's also a bunch of grotesque items that you can pick up, eat, and throw, and they have different effects every run. One run, a long tongue might heal you when you eat it, and the next run you try to do it again and it's a grenade. And you're dead. Sometimes there are notes that tell you what an item will do that run, but other than that, you just have to throw it or eat it to figure out what it do. Every item you carry also makes you walk slower too, so be careful you don't carry too much stuff around. This leads you to think that healing is pretty limited, right? There's a healing item, a regen item that heals you over time, and if you happen to find some flowers, you get regen if you stand in them long enough. But you gotta figure out which items are the good ones every run, and you can't count on the dang random flowers for healing. There is another way to heal yourself, though. Well, time to eat this gun. Yep, you eat weapons. Why?
This will explain everything.
Well, you heard her. Just don't eat weapons with status effects. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to eat a poison axe. Every couple floors there's a boss. The only way out is to kill them dead, which gives you a piece of she back. Look, I got her head. Let's just put it right there. Perfect. It's like she was never gone. You gotta be careful though. If you kill too many things, the Gut starts to hate you, and it'll send even more endlessly respawning enemies your way. It'll make you a dead meat. When they eventually take you down, you respawn in a field next to a weird bike with a skull on it. Whoa, bro, you alive? First time falling out the Gut, huh? This game is weird. You can ride him to the other attractions in the field, like this piano guy, or the meadow where you put she's parts, or this gold tree that takes most of your money to make the Gut happy with you again, but I don't really understand why it's here because the Gut seems to reset how much it likes you on every floor, so it just took all my money for no reason. Or this giant head that appears after you die a second time to sell you mementos. Oh shit, I never explained those. Mementos are your passive roguelite bonuses, and these are pretty basic. Run faster, run further, do more damage with a specific weapon that you will no doubt never find this run. Grow a big meaty metal nose that'll attack anything near you. Wait, what? Before you go back into the gut, there will always be a weapon and a memento to take with you down the elevator, which will drop you at the last floor you were on. Wait, hold on, that's not how you roguelite. Well, on the game's default difficulty, that's how it works. You can go up floors, but you have to pay money to do so. We'll get back to that later. But that about covers the gameplay, so let's talk about it. First off, the atmosphere here is great. From the PS1 ass looking ass monsters and draw distance, to the sound effects and music, to the interestingly strange dialogue, it's all great. Wow, that is a poetry. The game is a bunch of systems that operate whether the player is around or not. Enemies will walk into traps and set off some status effect. They'll kill each other if they get blocked. They'll get hurt and make noises that spook the player from elsewhere. It's really entertaining to watch any of these things happen. The attempt to make a survival horror roguelite is also very commendable, but there's some stuff that is a little weird here. First off, there's no progression of any kind right now. No item unlocks or permanent power-ups. Most roguelites either have one or the other, but that's not really a complaint. Another big thing in these games is the feel of a run. In this game, every 3 levels is a different biome, and they kind of feel like their own mini runs, because as soon as you beat the boss and get the she part, it throws you back to the field with no items and no mementos. You don't get to keep anything from area to area, and that kind of feels like, oh, you're doing good? How about now, stupid meat? You gotta do a harder area with nothing? You're a dead meat. I already made that joke. Unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty, where if you beat a boss, you just keep going with all your stuff. If you die on that difficulty though, you have to start all the way at floor -1, but you don't have to refight the bosses. On the base difficulty, you load back into the same floor that you died on. In the middle difficulty, you have a checkpoint after every boss. Now the lower floors are obviously harder, and if you load straight into the lower ones or a boss room with one weapon, one memento, and no idea what the items do, you're not really in a great spot. And that almost makes it seem like the hardest difficulty is easier to deal with than the ones before it. So it's harder, but it's not? I don't know, it's just kind of weird. The mimics have very odd behavior. Sometimes they chase you to the ends of the earth, and sometimes you're trying to bait them into an attack or a trap and they just give up. Hey, you can't run from me, get back here! It's a pretty challenging yet rewarding game. Until you get to this cabin area. Inside is fine, but there are outside areas where you start getting bone chill, which, if you remember, is a bummer. You either run or you take damage, and the bar doesn't tick down until you get out of the cold. It turns out you can run in place, which is very helpful, but it seems like the second you move, this one enemy type just heat seeks into you from 3 rooms over and kills you. Just run away, you say. Well, it turns out when most of the enemies are disguised as normal objects, it gets pretty hard to know where to run without running into more enemies, and that's a downward spiral. The enemies can move around disguised, and more enemies spawn in after a while, so you'll never know if an area is actually clear, and you're gonna need to eventually take some of them out, with your weapon that breaks fairly quickly, and that you also need for healing sometimes. Damn. If that wasn't bad enough, the glow around items that you can pick up is white, and the frozen outside areas are all white, so you can't see anything. I basically had to take a map around with me and spam the E button on the ground in the hopes that I would find whatever's down there. I disliked this area so much that it had kind of soured my whole opinion on the game, but then I went back and played it on a different difficulty and was like, no, there definitely is fun here. Well, not here, but here. This game gets updated a lot though, so it's probably already changed, so here's a meat band. I think Golden Light is an interesting mashup of a first-person survival horror and a roguelite that ranges from spine-tinglingly intriguing to that feeling when you've died in the same spot a couple times in a horror game and you're like, alright, this isn't scary anymore, just let me get to the next part. I have flip-flopped a lot whether I like this game or not, but hey, it's in early access right now and it seems to be getting pretty consistent updates. So I'll give it my patented 2 lanes, keep your eye on it and see what happens. Just don't keep your eye too close or the eye taker might get you. This game is $12.99 or your regional equivalent on Steam. I played it for about 8 hours to make this video and I only screamed twice. If it looks interesting, pick it up. If not, I'll let you know how it is when it's at 1.0, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and dingle-ringle the bell. We got a busy month coming up with Undermine 1.0, Risk of Rain 2 1.0, and Rogue Legacy 2, so be ready for those. I'll leave you with my first encounter with an enemy in this game. 2 Lainz out. Mementos give new powers or new problems. You never know, but I always pick them up. This way it's more fun. Ha 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 ha.